Hi everyone, this is Priyanka and I'll be taking you through this webinar. And we also have Ramya and Vivek from my team who will be guiding you with your doubts, and you can feel free to drop your doubts in the questions bar, and you can use the chat bar to just chat with the trainers. Okay, so that's how it goes. So this webinar is mostly going to revolve about how you can do IMAP migration, as you already know. So let's begin then. Before we start the session, let's just see some instructions. That is, all of the attendees will be on mute till the webinar will get over. You will be allowed to ask your questions in the question tab, which is found on the left side of your page. And if you want to chat, you can use the chat tab. And this session will be recorded and will be sent to each of the person who have registered for this webinar. And last of all, we'd like all of you to stay and fill in the post-session survey after this webinar gets over. So that's with the header. And yeah, Zoho Mail overview. Let me just give you a brief of Zoho Mail for those who don't know or who hasn't experienced with Zoho Mail as of now. Zoho Mail was started in 1996 by Sridhar Bembu and Tony Thomas. And this is a reliable business email solution, and it's been satisfying customers' communication needs. And we have about 13 million users as of now. Zoho Mail promises a guaranteed private policy, and you have support team who is ready to support you 24/7. And we also have enabled hassle-free migration. Okay, if you ask me what Zoho Mail is unique about, I would say its features. So starting off with, Zoho Mail is a complete suite from calendars to contacts. Calendars, as a few already know, you can schedule events, your conferences, meetings. And what more you can do is when you schedule an event, you can invite your users. What happens is when you invite users, they'll be sent a notification, and that particular event will be scheduled in their calendars. And also you can make your calendar public and you can share your calendar with your users. That's about calendars. And then moving on to notes, you can take your important notes and again have your invitees invited. And those invitees will be having access to your notes and be able to comment on it. And then moving on to task. Talking about task, you can assign personal task and group task. Personal task is obvious enough that you assign a task to yourself and have a record of how the task is progressing. Group task is where you can add members to the group, and you can assign a task as a group. And you can also have subtask under the task and assign the subtask to the individuals of the group. And you can invite people who can comment and view on the task, and you can change the status of the task in accordance with the progression of the task. And then you have contacts, the frequently used contacts, the important contacts that you use. You can save it in the contacts platform so that you can have easy access to it. So that's about this. Okay. Exclusively what Zoho Mail holds is Zoho Streams. What is this is that it is mostly like a social media page where you can post and people can comment, like, and even they can tag the people in this post. And they can also share it to private users. And what you can post here is you can post your task, you can post your notes, you can even post your events here. So this is a collaborative platform that only Zoho Mail has, whereas other providers do not. That's unique about Zoho. And yeah, you also have other cool features that's available in Zoho, starting off with compose and send later. What is this is that if you want to schedule your email that you want to send after a particular time, let's say for example I want to send a mail after a hour after I compose it, I can schedule the mail, I can give it a timing saying after a hour I want to send it, and it will go and get stored in the outbox. And once the scheduled time comes, it will be sent automatically. But before that 1 hour, if I change my mind thinking I don't want to send this mail, I can easily go and stop the scheduling time so that the mail will go and save in the draft section. So it's up to me to again send it or not. So that's how this works. And then you have undo or recall emails. As undo, as it's obvious enough that if you send an email and you want to unsend it, you can go with the undo option. It comes with a timer setting where, for example, if I'm going to set a timer of 10 minutes, Then after I send an email, for about 10 minutes, I will be allowed to undo that email. But after which that particular option will not be available for me. That's how undo works. And recall emails works in a way like you send the email, but you want to recall it before the users see it. For example, I've sent an email, and the client or whoever I've sent it to hasn't seen the email yet. So I'm free enough to recall it so that a notification will be sent to them saying the email was recalled, but they will not be able to see the email. So that's how the recall option works. So seeing such cool features, let's just see a quick fact. That is, do you guys know that more than 30 million emails are sent each day? That's a shocking news, right? Okay, moving on. Switching providers, email migration. Okay, talking about why you need to migrate. We can just shift between providers, right? Just get a login details and credentials and just move into another user. But we do not do that, but choose migration. Why? Is that mail is not just about communicating platform. You just send and receive an email or just a personal text. It's not going to be that. It's going to contain sensitive data. For example, you could have compliances, you could have legal purpose documents, you could have contracts, you could have histories that you want to reference, and you could have data that you might use, and you could even have proofs. So with all these sensitive data, you will not want to leave all those data in the previous server and move to a new provider server. That cannot happen. You obviously want your data to be migrated, right? So that's the basic essentiality of migration option being existing. So after knowing the essentiality of migration, let's see what are the types of migration we have. We have 4 different types, which is one-click, IMAP migration, POP, and migration wizard. Let me just get you through with all of these. First, let's just finish off with migration wizard. What is that? Is a tool where you'll be able to transfer data in accordance with the format. For example, if you want to transfer data that is PST file, then you can go with the PST, or the same applies for EML. If you want to migrate data from the Exchange servers, you can choose the Exchange server option. So all of these is available under the migration wizard tool. So then comes IMAP and POP migration. What is the major difference between the both is that they are I'd say IMAP is more advantageous compared to POP. For example, if I want to do a migration using IMAP from Google to Zoho, all the folders that I had in Google will just come as folders to IMAP. The structure will not change. But if I'm going to use POP migration, those folders will not be migrated as folders, but all the emails inside it will directly get migrated as direct emails, not as folders. That's one such difference that happens. And if you have certain errors that happening during the migrations going on, you'd be able to track it if you use IMAP migration, but that is not available in POP. So such things, you can actually go to the help page and have a view about the difference between IMAP and POP and choose the best migration that suits you. But recommending, I would say IMAP is much more advantageous compared to POP. Okay, last of all, one-click migration. Majorly used migration is one-click and IMAP. So what is the difference between these two and when are they being used is one-click migration is majorly used when you want to migrate a lot of users. Say, for example, you want to migrate thousands of users, then you should probably go with one-click migration. But IMAP migration, you can use it when you want to migrate about handful of users, like hundreds of users you want to migrate, you can go with IMAP. But the difference is in one-click migration, it's a bit technical compared to IMAP migration. That's the major difference. And in one-click migration, you just need the admin's credential. That is from Google. If you want to migrate to Zoho, you only need the admin credential of the Google's admin page. But in IMAP migration, you need to have the credentials of all the users you migrate. So that is also a major difference between them. So that's about it. But if you are very much confident with your technical skills, you can go with the one-click migration just to migrate 10 users also. So that's totally up to you. But today we will be focusing on IMAP migration. So before I start off with how to do IMAP migration, I'd like you to get you through what all you need before you start the migration. So that is first one, add and verify domains. Make sure you log into the account and you add your domain and verify it before you start the migration. Okay, and then next is create user accounts. What is this is that when you want to migrate about 10 users from Google to Zoho, make sure you create 10 user accounts in Zoho so that you can migrate their data into this particular user accounts. So that's basically about creating user accounts in Zoho. And then you have a source server name and portal, which you might need before the migration starts. That is, these are the details that you will be filling in the migration procedure. So get to know the source server name, port details, and then list user list that needs to be migrated. It simply means that if you have a list or batch of users you want to migrate batch by batch, make sure you have the list before you start the migration. So if you have the list, it will be easier for you to add the users as batch wise and migrate. So that's basically it. And next comes source usernames and password, which is very basic. If you want to migrate users, you need to know their username and password of their Google account. Only then you will be able to migrate them from Google to Zoho. So that's very basic. And then you have enable TFA and less secure apps. To brief about this, let me just give a glimpse about what TFA is doing here. TFA is nothing but two-factor authentication. What it does is it's an extra layer of protection. It's just simple as that. Okay. Let's imagine a user from Google that you want to migrate has enabled TFA there in the Google account. So when I migrate that user here, I will not just need the username and password, the user credential password, but I will need a app specific password of that user. That's what is listed in the next option, next point, that is create app specific password. If the two-factor authentication is enabled in the user account, I will need the app password of the user account in order for them to migrate it in the Zoho. Okay, that's one thing you need to remember. And then less secure app. What is this is that Google always considers that all the other apps except Google as less secure app. Okay, so in order for you to migrate from Google to Zoho, it is very necessary that in the Google account the admin has to enable this option, allow less secure apps. If that option is not enabled, then Zoho will not have the access to bring in data from Google to Zoho. So it's very much needed that this less secure apps is enabled in Google. So that's another necessity. And then you have CSV file. This basically speaking, when you want to add multiple users at a time, okay, you don't want to add users one by one in a manual way, you want to add multiple users at a time, you can go with CSV file. It has a specified format, okay, which I'll be showing you in the progression of this webinar. So yes, that's about the CSV file. And then you have storage used and required for the users. That is, before you start the migration, make sure you've deleted all the unwanted emails in the Google account. Because if you have too many unwanted mails and when you are starting the migration and you have too many mails occupying in Zoho as well, and the storage might bloat up, okay, which will result in the suspension of the migration. So you will have to delete the unwanted emails in Zoho and then again in Google and again resume the migration, which will be a complex procedure. So it's always advised before you start the migration, make sure you delete all the unwanted emails in Google account and then start the migration. So that's about the prerequisites. I hope I was clear with this page. This is simply a brush up of how to do IMAP migration, which I'll be showing a demo right now. We'll just run through a little bit again with the prerequisites. What you need is you need to verify your domain, and then you will have to create user accounts for each and every account you want to migrate from there to here. And then you need your source server name and your port details, and then make a list if you want. And then basically you will need the user's name and password of the Google account of the user for them to migrate it here. And then you have TFA, which you should be cautious about because if TFA is enabled there, then you will need the app specific password and not the login credentials. And then you have less secure app, which should be enabled in Google account so that Zoho will have access to the data that is there in the Google to get migrated here. And then you have CSV file, which I'll be showing you later. Then storage, make sure you delete all the unwanted emails before you start the migration. Okay, with that being said, let me just cast my screen. This is basically the admin account that I've had as a test account. So let's move into the admin console page, which you will find here by clicking on the avatar. The avatar is found on the right side of your page. Click on the My Profile, and then you will find the admin console, which you can access by clicking on this option. Click on that app option and it will take you to the admin console page. Now I've entered the admin console page. Now what I need to do is select data migration option that is found on the left side of the page here. So once I select that, I have certain migration protocols that's already been created, but let's just create a new one here. Click on create. You'll be taken to this page. So here is where you will have to fill your server details. For now, let's just give a name for our migration. Let me just give migration. Batch 1 migration. Let me just name it that way. And then you have your saved server details. If you've already saved your server details, you can click on one of those details and proceed. But if you haven't, it's better you go with the add new server details option, which is present on the lower section of this option. Yeah, I've selected add new server details, and then comes the option that is select protocol or application. Clicking on this application, you need to select IMAP. This is where you make the difference what migration you choose. So click on IMAP migration. You will have further options listed, which is you need to select your source server type, which will be Gmail or others. Why do we differentiate this is if you're going to select Gmail, then the source server address will be auto-filled and you will not have to fill it manually. So that's about this. Select Gmail and the source server address is automatically filled. And even the security is automatically filled. The port number and the security SSL is filled again. And then you have two other options, which is path prefix and skip certificate check, which is not that much relevant for Google. So let's just omit for now. What's very important is you select the source server type and your security and move to add. Okay, now we've been taken to a new page that is settings. So it's already been named as batch 1 migration settings. Let's just leave it that way. If you want, you can change the name as per your preference. Okay, with that being done, you have the next option, which is folders to migrate. You're left with two different options, which is all folders and specific folders. But the thing is, when you migrate from Gmail to Zoho, this specific folders is this option is not available for us. Okay, so let's just go with all folders option. So what it means if I click this option is that all my folders from Gmail will migrate to Zoho. But if I want some of my folders to not get migrated, if I want to exclude some of my folders, what you should do is simply type the folder's name here so that those folders will be excluded. For example, if I want a folder called completed projects to be excluded, I'm going to type completed projects. Here. So by simply typing the folder's name, the completed projects folder will not get migrated. But the thing you have to note here is when you type in a folder's name here, only the parent folder will be excluded. But if you want your subfolders under that parent folder to also be excluded, make sure you type in the name followed by a slash and a star. Okay, if you don't mention this, only the parent folder will be excluded. So if you want the subfolders under this parent folder to be excluded, make sure you type in the name of the folder followed by slash and a star. See, it's mentioned here. Okay, so moving on to the next option, which is emails to migrate. You have two different options here again for you, which is all emails and in a specific date. What it means is if you select on all emails, all of your emails will migrate. It's just simple as that. But if you're going to select this option, which is emails in a specific date range, then it means emails that were sent and received in a specific date will be migrated. For example, if I want the emails that were sent and received the previous year and I do not want the rest of those emails to migrate, I can go with this option. So for now, let's just go with all emails and move on to the next option, which is enable POP access for the migrated emails. What this option says is that if you want the migrated users to have access to migrated emails, go with an yes. But if you do not want the migrated users to have access to the migrated emails, go with a no. So that's this option. And then you have other preferences section. You have three different options here. Let me just go through with one by one. The first option is exclude inbox mails with more than one label. What this says is in Google, you must have noticed you have labels. That is, you can label a particular email, right? So let me just take an example. I have an email and I've labeled as work. It's a work related email, so I've just labeled as work. So what happens is when that email migrates to Zoho, those labels are considered as folders here. Okay, so that mail will land in my inbox and also in one of the folder which is named as work. Okay, so that's why especially we've given this option, exclude inbox mails with more than one label. So there's this scenario where you can label a particular email with more than one label. Okay, you can label with work or even saying it's a project and even give it another label. So three different folders will be formed in this Zoho, and the mail will fall under three different folders and also the inbox. So there's a duplication happening there. So in order for the storage to not load up, you can go with this first option. By clicking on this, the mails will only drop in the folders, but it will not fall in the inbox. So the duplication can be stopped there, and the storage can be, saved a little bit there. So that's why this option is available for you. And then you have mark important as tag and mark starred as tag. What happens here is in Google, you have an option where you can mark an email as important and you can mark an email as starred, right? So if you've done so, if you want them to be tagged in Zoho, you can go with these two options so that the emails that are marked as important or marked as starred, when they're migrated to Zoho, they will be tagged. Okay, it's just a view option. If they're tagged, you can view those particular emails. It does not occupy any extra space. Okay, that's about these two options. So with that being said, I'll just brush up a little bit, which is folders to migrate. Go with all folders, and here you can fill in the folders that you want to exclude. Make sure you type in the name along with a slash and a star so that to exclude all the subfolders under the parent folder. And then you have emails to migrate. Go with all emails if you want all the emails to be migrated, or go with mails in a specific date range if you want only the specific date range emails to be migrated. And then you have enable pop access if you want the migrated users to have access for emails, go with a yes. If not, go with a no. And then other preferences, if you have multiple labels that is labeled on a particular email in Gmail, it will land in different folders under that label's name in Zoho and also in your inbox. So to avoid a duplicacy of emails to happen in inbox, make sure you click this option so that there's no duplication happens. And then you have a mark important as tag and mark starred as tag. So the mails that are marked as important or starred or both, if you want them to be tagged in Zoho, you can go with these two options. So with that being said, go on with clicking on the option add. So this is the final page where you will be setting the protocols of how the migration has to happen. So in this page, you have two different options available. That is, one is maximum connection limit. What does this option what does this option do is, if you have hundreds of users, okay, and you do not want the users to be migrated one by one, because simply it will take time, right? So in order to avoid that, you can specify a number here. For example, 5 is specified here. What happens is there is a parallel server connection that happens so that 5 users will be migrated simultaneously. In short, you will save time. So that's how this works. And then you have next option, pause migration when storage reaches either of these storage limits. Okay, let's just go with 80%. It simply means after I start the migration, okay, let's just imagine I haven't deleted all my unwanted emails. So the storage is going up and my migration suspends. So where exactly my migration has to suspend is something that I have to decide. And this option lets me decide that. So if I want to stop when the storage reaches 80% or 95%. So let me just go with 80% for now. And let's create. Okay. We've set all the rules how the migration has to happen. And the next important step that you have to do is user addition. Clicking on this option, you can add your users. You have two different options or procedures through which you can add your users. The first one is add and the second one is import. So let me just go through with it. First, let me click on add. Okay, this is a manual addition of users. Okay, so you give a source name, you give a password, and then a destination email address that you select from these, and then priority and add. Okay, I'll give you a demo of this. That will be the source name, and going on with password. Okay, I'll enter the password a little later because there's when I have to teach the TFA. I want all of the data of this source user to land in this particular email. And then you have priority. What does priority indicate is that, let's just take for an example again. I have hundreds of users that I want to migrate, okay? But I have prioritized 10 users who I want to migrate first, regardless of when I add them, okay? Then I can utilize this priority option and I can choose high for those 10 users who I have prioritized. And for the rest of the 90 users, I can go with low, okay? If I do this, those 10 users, regardless of when they are being added during the migration, after the migration begins, those 10 users will migrate first. And then the users who are left behind will migrate later after the prioritized users migrate. So that's how the priority works. Okay, as I said, I'll do this later, is because I'm going to give you a demo of how to get the app password. If the user hasn't enabled the two-factor authentication, make sure you put the password of login credentials. Okay. But if the user has enabled the two-factor authentication, what you need to do is get to the user's mail. Okay. And there you have an avatar here. Click on that and get to the manage your Google account. Okay. Getting into that, you have security option that is available on the left side of your page. Click on that. Okay, once you enter the security, you will have an option called app password. Okay, if you scroll down a little, you'll find this option app password, and clicking on that, that will take you to a page. Yeah, that will take you to a page like this, where you will have to select for what app are you really using this. Click on others, and then it wants you to show. I mean, tell them why you exactly need an app password. So let me just say Zoho Mail. I need an app password for Zoho Mail. Clicking on generate, it will give me an app password. Okay, this is the app password. Copy the app password and get to this page and paste the app password. Okay, I'll repeat the procedure again. You get into the Google account, get to the manage account section, and there you'll have security on the left side of the page. And there, if you enter, you'll have app password option. Going into that, specify why you need a app password, say Zoho Mail, and entering that, you can generate an app password for the user, copy the app password, and place it here. So once that's done, you can click on add. Yes, my user is added now. So let me just stop with adding one user for now. I'll just give a brief about how import works. Okay. So clicking on this import, it will ask you to drag and drop a file or simply browse a file. What file you have to browse is, it will give you a sample of how you should create a file if you want to import multiple users. Clicking on this option, it will show you a sample such as this. Okay. This is how you should create a file, a sheet where you will have to give your source email address, password, destination email address, priority of all the users you want to migrate. If you simply list all the users and their details here in this format and get to this page, drag the file or simply browse the file and drop it here. If you do that, those users will be migrated here. So that's how you can migrate multiple users. And add simply allows you to add users one by one. So that's about adding users. Since we finished added users and we finished with the configuration, what we need to do next is simply click on Start Migration. So there's a pop-up that happens. It says you cannot add or delete users thereafter. Okay, let's click on Start. Okay, once you click on Start, the migration is in progress. You can abort the migration whenever you want, and by refreshing, each time you refresh, it will tell how much or the status of the migration as it progresses. For example, if it has progressed 50% to 75%, when and then you refresh, it will show you the status of it. So that's how it works. I'll just show you a migration that has already been done. So let's just say your migration has been completed. Okay, how does it look? Is that something like this? Okay, the status will be completed 100%, and you'll have a total user. I added one, so 1. How much of users been completely migrated? 1. In progress 0. Failed 0. I'll get you through with what happens when it becomes in progress or failed. Okay, for now you should know how a status looks if the migration is completed. So that's just about how you do migration. Okay, let me stop screen sharing now. Yeah, now let me give you a brush up. So what did we do first is get into the data migration page, and you will have to know the host name, port, and the SSL security. Selecting all of those, you'll have other options like which folder you want to migrate, which emails, if all the emails you want to migrate, those options. And once you finish all of those things, you have upload the CSV file, which is if you want to add multiple users at a time, you can go with the CSV file or simply add them manually. And then you have start migration process option available for you. After you add the users, you'll select on the option and monitor the progress. Now that being said, let's move on to troubleshooting. After you finish with all these process, and if you have certain problems during the process, what could it be? The possible problems that could occur is first one is email size exceeded. Okay, as I already said, if you've not deleted unwanted emails and you've started the migration, the space might bloat up. Okay, at that point, after it reaches the particular storage limit that you specified during the configuration, which is 80% or 95%, at that point the migration suspends and it will allow you to delete some emails. Okay, at that point you will have to delete some emails so that some space gets cleared and you can start the migration again. But if you tell me that all the emails that was migrated is important to me, I cannot delete any of those emails, then the other option that is available for you is you can upgrade your storage. Okay, you can upgrade your storage to a much higher limit so that you will have storage enough for you to migrate all of the rest of the emails. So now you should have a doubt, that is, after I did do this, what will happen? You can simply resume the migration. But when you resume the migration, will the duplicacy happen again? That is, the mails that was already migrated, will they migrate again? The answer is absolutely no. The mails that were already migrated will stay migrated, and only the emails that was left behind will start migration again. So that's about the first troubleshoot. And next comes unable to process or retrieve. This mostly happens if there's some internal error that is happening, or if the email is not being able to, get retrieved from the source server. Those emails will not be migrated. Okay. At that point, what you can do is after the migration gets over, you can rerun the migration. Okay. So that those errors would have solved by then, and then those emails would reach the Zoho Mail. Then you have authentication error. What is authentication error is that app password that I was talking about. If the two-factor authentication is switched on and you've entered the normal login credential password, then it will show you this error, authentication error. Then it means the two-factor, you have to check the two-factor authentication. Make sure the username is correct in the first place, and then check the password if it is correct. and then even then the authentication arises, then it's definitely the two-factor authentication problem. So make sure you go and check if it is enabled. If yes, then copy paste the app password. And then next troubleshooting is that fail to migrate. Fail to migrate is possibly could happen because of two reasons. One is if the migration doesn't even happen from the start, it simply means in the Google account, the less secure app option is not enabled. Okay, if it is not enabled, Zoho will not have the access of the data in Google to get migrated here. So simply go and enable that option. But another thing is, if the user is not getting migrated, there was some problem with the user getting migrated, it must have meant like maybe when you were migrating, the user must have changed the password. Okay, here you would have given the login credential of the login password of the user, and you would have started the migration, but the user would have changed the password while the migration is going on. So if that happens, the user will not be migrated. And then you have invalid messages, which is a rare case. Like if the data that is migrated is not of the specified format, those emails will not be migrated. It's a rare case, so we don't have to worry about it. So these are the possible troubleshooting that happens while you do the migration. If you have doubts that arises suddenly, you can contact our support team, or the email address is listed here. Anytime, it's available 24/7, and you can get the aid from them, or you can have a direct call or live chat with us by using the information that's listed in the link that is given below the mail address. And we are also giving a guiding migration where you'll have a meet set up, and we will guide you through each and every step of the migration. But that comes with a nominal price. Since you've all attended the webinar, we'll be giving you, at a nominal price. So that's about it. Yeah. Catch you all in the next video. Thank you so much.